Have you ever felt lost with your art? Or gotten stuck in a loop of identity crisis? Maybe you forgot how to enjoy drawing like you used to. Well, you're not alone. I've been through it multiple times. But I found a way to get over it, and maybe it will work for you too. The solution is surprisingly simple. I'm gonna draw myself. Okay, maybe not literally myself. It's not as straightforward as just looking in a mirror and sketching my face. But I am gonna draw what's deep down inside. In my soul. This is the one thing that helped me when everything else didn't, and I'm gonna share with you how. So let's talk about making an art persona. If you don't know me, hey, I'm Printer Guys, but you can just call me Printer. I've been in a long pursuit of turning art into a viable career, all the while struggling with my own self-worth as an artist and generally not knowing where I want to go. Do I want to make illustrations, concept art, animate, work with a company, or become a freelancer? Or do I give up? Do I look for another job and treat art as a hobby instead? Unfortunately, my college didn't prepare me for any of this. At this point, art lost all meaning to me. The traditional education system changed how I saw my work, and what was once something exciting became something that made me feel dread and uncertainty for the future. Still, I pushed through. I tried different paths, hoping one would feel right. But no matter what I did, I felt stuck. I was dissatisfied with my drawings, I kept comparing myself to others, and I lacked a clear goal. I took online courses, learned new techniques, and I did improve, but even with progress, I struggled to finish projects or feel proud of what I've made. And so I ended up back to where I started, maybe even further behind. What was the point? Why did I try? Why did I start drawing in the first place? My mind kept drawing a blank. Trying to put any of it into words felt impossible. This is what led me to create an art persona. It's my way of reconnecting with my creativity and letting go of the doubts and regrets that had built up over the years. Exploring this new identity gives me the freedom to rediscover what I love about art. It's not a perfect solution, and I don't expect to have all the answers, but it's a step forward. And honestly, that's more than I would have had before. So, what exactly is an art persona? To put simply, it's a way to visually express who you are through your art. If you're familiar with making OCs, or original characters, it's kinda like that, but there's a big difference. Unlike an OC, a persona is entirely focused on you. It can take on many forms and be as abstract or as literal as you want it to be. Maybe it's based on a symbol, an object you hold dear, or a concept that you really resonate with. Maybe it's a version of yourself with features that reality won't allow, but your imagination can. But what's important is that it reflects how you see yourself. Your interests, influences, aspirations, or a mix of all these things. You might be thinking, okay, art personas can do all that, but Printer, can't my art show these things naturally? Yes, it absolutely can. But let's say you sit down, you get out your drawing tools, and suddenly, nothing. Ideas seem boring, forced, or non-existent. So if you're struggling, that's where an art persona comes in. You don't have to come up with new ideas from scratch, or force yourself to tackle random subjects. Instead, you're given one to work with, yourself, the best subject you know. Drawing yourself lets you experiment freely without the pressure of having to create a masterpiece. It turns the process into a fun little self-expression adventure rather than a daunting task. But it's not just about making something fun, alright? It's also about improving and practicing at the same time. It almost feels like a game, like an MMO, where your character earns XP and levels up little by little. The more you explore, the more your skill and understanding develop. You can try different styles or techniques, tackle anatomy in a new way, or experiment with shapes and colors. This kind of carefree exploration has played a role in my own art journey. Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but my previous art personas helped me navigate through my style and practice new skills. In fact, there was a time I actually explored another medium with my persona. It was back in school when I had to learn 3D modeling and animation in Maya. Honestly, I didn't like it that much, but because I focused on recreating my persona, I found it a lot more interesting than I probably would have. I think with a lot of things, we can find motivation from our art personas. For me, it's because I feel deeply connected to them and genuinely excited to bring them to life. So, if you're looking for something new to try, why not recreate yourself in clay? Or make collages, do embroidery, knit a plushie, or even dabble in creative writing. The possibilities are pretty much endless. And not only is this a good way to break out of the creative rut and just try out new things, it can also help you on a much deeper level. In my case, this isn't just about reconnecting with art, but reconnecting with myself. It's helping me understand and accept different parts of myself I wouldn't normally share or even acknowledge. There have been times when my passion would fade in and out. I'd spend hours looking at both my recent and past work and feel like it didn't hold the same meaning it once did. I think it's easy to drift into these thoughts, getting caught up in art trends, drawing for the sake of not losing your streak, starting projects to get you motivated once again, only to leave them unfinished. It makes me feel dissociated. Is this even my art? Is it anyone's? But revisiting and redesigning my persona throughout the years has become a form of introspection, a way to reflect on where I was and what resonated with me at the time. I can't help but smile and cringe in a loving way, thinking about all the phases I've gone through with my persona. It makes me feel excited for the many more that are to come as I continue to grow. I kind of compare it to a visual journal. I've logged my thoughts through every redesign, outfit choice, and questionable haircut I've given my art persona over the years. It's like a time capsule of my goals, emotions, skills, biggest influences, and obsessions. I'd love to share those with you, even the embarrassing ones. So stick around to the end if you're interested in seeing that. With all that said, this persona I'm currently drawing feels very different from all my previous ones. I can't express how much this design is helping me figure out the things I actually like. Only recently I found out that I enjoy storytelling and illustrations, such as fairy tales that use symbols and patterns to evoke feelings. I'm also a big horror fan, but I've never explored it thoroughly in my art before, so realizing that gave me things to strive for. Another thing that I discovered is that I really vibe with Yoshitaka Amano, Ivan Bilibin, and a bunch of other artists that all seem to be connected to each other. Looking back, I've always been into more unconventional styles. I've drawn realism before, but I understand now that I just like it more when things are weird, surreal, or interpretive. And that's okay. That's why I'm making this character more abstract this time. Without a focus on accurate anatomy, just primitive shapes. While my thoughts might not all connect visually through this one design I made, I can still see and feel my influences in it. I had all these things in my mind, and I ended up actually creating a little tale for my persona that kind of shows how I think of myself as an artist. Here's what I wrote. Unable to speak or write, a mischievous poltergeist takes over an old printer and uses it to communicate with the outside world. Okay, it's simple, but I feel like I relate to it quite a bit. Plus, it just, fits my name. Now, I could talk for hours about how I came up with this character and what is informing my design choices, but I think that would count as an entirely separate video, so what I will say is that it wasn't easy coming up with and settling on a design to stick with. There's always a voice in the back of my head just going, do I really see myself in this? What if I want to change it again? What if I get made fun of for seeing myself like this? Now, that's a lot of things to unpack here, so let's just handle it one at a time. There's no wrong way to approach your art persona. You don't need to make a perfect mirror image, nor have a complete and full understanding of yourself in order to make one. After all, I don't see my designs as the complete embodiment of me. Maybe a big part of me, but not all of it. This is just a tool to rediscover yourself with, so there will be change. Change is just an unavoidable part of being an artist, or anyone for that matter. So, obviously, your art persona is going to grow and develop with you. It's not something to be ashamed of. Nobody stays stagnant their whole life. You'll find other hobbies and aspirations, discover new songs to listen to, and you'll go through new experiences. Your art persona is simply a representation of those stages. So, give it room to grow with you. Embrace what you create and don't stress about being perfect. You might be worried that other people will think it's too weird, too idealized, or too self-absorbed. But in the end, it really doesn't matter what they think. The intention isn't to impress anyone. It's to express yourself, to have fun, work on your creativity, and indulge in your passions. I mean, this is literally all about you. People love talking about their interests, so tell us about yours. And don't overthink it too much. Everyone will have their own take on your work. Some will love it, some won't get it, and some will have opinions just for the sake of having them. At the end of the day, there's no objective truth about what you create. And there we have it. Okay, I think we're just about done, and I really like how this turned out. This isn't typically how I draw, so it was pretty fun to try something new. Honestly, I never really expected to like hatching that much. For me, this creative exercise has been more than just a fun self-indulgence. It's helped me feel grounded and reminded me what made my work meaningful in the first place. But there's still one last thing I'd like to do. I mentioned how personas act as a visual journal earlier, and I'd like you to join me as I reflect back on some of my past personas because I think it's important that I accept the vulnerable side of myself and not shy away from it. Okay, where do I even start? This right here is probably one of the first personas I've made. I believe this was all the way back in... Okay, honestly, I couldn't figure out the year, but it's probably somewhere from 2015. Yeah, it's just a doodle of myself, pretty simple. A straightforward depiction of what I looked like with a cartoony art style. As you can see, over time I got a little better. I try to have a little bit more accuracy in my proportions and colors, and I kept it semi-realistic. I think that would be classified as semi-realistic. But this is where the game changes, guys. Instead of just drawing myself, I had a head for a printer now. And as you can see, I was very, very creative back then. And you know, it's funny because I know for a fact that I had so many sketches of this printer head guy in my high school notebooks, just everywhere. Then I start to get a little more serious. So I watched this movie called Shutter Island. Really good movie, by the way, it's a mystery. And this has nothing to do with the movie, but I saw a pretty cool looking drawing in one of the scenes and I really wanted to redraw it. Now, at the time I had no idea what it was, but I only recently found out that this is actually a tranquilizing device. So yeah, my design choice came from a tranquilizer. I ended up actually doing a little challenge with my tranquilizer Sona by turning my display to black and white so that I could choose random colors to put on the canvas, and that was actually a pretty fun exercise. I felt really proud of how my rendering attempt turned out during this, so it became a pretty long-lasting profile picture for me. And finally, I was done copying other things, and I started to make this design my own. So I redesigned it and I turned my avatar into a VTuber using Live 2D. I even made like little stream screens that really didn't end up getting used, but I still had a lot of fun learning rigging and dividing things into layers and assets. Seeing my art persona become animated, especially with my own movement tracking, was just super satisfying. But then things took a turn. My persona began to fluctuate throughout university. I would create self-portraits of myself again as a printer, but a little edgier this time. And other times I would go back to my other version, the VTuber version, and depict that, or even myself and what I looked like in real life at the time in different illustrations or in the same one. This next one is the toughest one for me to acknowledge. It was for my thesis, and I basically wanted to reimagine a printer as a humanoid. So I try to make it as logical as I could manage to. I even binge watched a bunch of videos on YouTube with how printers work internally or how they're made, and while I don't really like this one looking back because I find myself hardly relating to it now, this persona still gave me a lot of insight into concept art, character designs, and just trying out something different, especially from all my previous personas. I also feel like I gained some skills from making illustrations with not just this character, but the environments that surrounded the character, so, you know, there was a little world building involved. After university was over, I stopped making more art personas of myself for a while. I was really focused on trying to find a job and creating a better portfolio, sharpening my skills. I ended up actually taking a pretty solid concept art course online, and I gained a lot of new skills out of it, but after that, I just didn't know where to go. So I looked back at my persona and decided to redraw her with some slight design changes, new art style, new skills. It was a way for me to test out what I've learned. I actually like this one a lot, especially having simplified the body and some of the features. Looking back at my past personas, I can see how each piece reflected where I was at the time. The emotions I was processing and the skills I was honing, it made me realize how far I've come in art and as a person. So here I am now with a totally different version of myself I didn't know existed to represent this new chapter in my life. I know there's always a chance I could feel lost again in the future. But if that happens, I know what I'll try first. I'll update my art persona, because it's about more than self-representation or skill building. It's about rediscovering ourselves and finding direction. Now, I challenge you to give it a try. Why not draw your own art persona? What would it look like? What would it say about you? And I would love to hear your experiences, so please drop a comment and share how it felt to draw yourself. But all that said, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Bye bye!